you-know-who has threatened the royal family with extinction.
I'm a nutcase.
I mean, he didn't threaten them with extinction, but he said that if Charles doesn't button it about our fabulous Brexit, then it could be the end of the royal family. That's about as stupid a thing as he tweeted it. I haven't got it word for word, but it's there or thereabouts. That's his policy. Interesting.
We've got a few idiots in our party.
If you say so, Nige. Brexit. The papers were absolutely full of Brexit today, which is kind of weird because nothing really happened. But I think that the amount of arm flailing, the amount of fury that is being expressed by the proponents of Brexit is in indirect proportion to the actual benefits of Brexit. Because so far they are invisible. There aren't any. And as people are beginning to realise that there aren't any benefits to Brexit, so those that have proposed it are becoming ever more frantic in their attempts to defend it. And so it was today. I mean, quite comically so. We must keep Bodger Johnson in power, otherwise we'll lose Brexit. Oh no! What, we'll lose, all of the benefits of Brexit, like, I've got no idea. You tell me. There aren't any. We've got an entire ghostly hat stand whose sole purpose in life is to come up with a benefit of Brexit, and he still can't think of anything.
I don't know anything.
Say it again.
I don't know anything.
One more time.
I don't know anything.
He doesn't know anything. It was comical. There was a Dear Boris letter that was written today as well by one of his family members. Did you read that? Oh, I might get to that in a minute. I mean, really, it's just... and it's... It's almost as though that these articles are written by a computer.
Correct.
Like, you just feed in the information, a couple of slogans into a robot, and then it just spits it out.
Affirmative.
Tory Brexiteers last night accused lefties, lords and lovies of mounting a dangerous new offensive against Britain's historic decision to leave the EU. Now, the word historic there, do you mean that it is a matter of historic interest or just old? As in, it happened already. Allies of... But this is the Mail, of course. Allies of Boris Johnson. Allies? Has he got any allies?
No.
I can't think of any. Apart from those who depend on him for their ministerial career. Those people who no one else would employ. Mentioning no names.
Calm down.
Allies of Boris Johnson fear opponents of Brexit are seeking to use his vulnerability to push forward their agenda. Their agenda of saving this country from economic ruin.
No!
A coalition of Brexit critics, including former Labour Minister David Miliband, issue renewed calls for the country's departure to be watered down. Miliband, the former Labour Foreign Secretary, highlighted on Twitter claims that the decision to leave is causing economic damage. It is doing economic damage. It's not claims, they are verifiable truths. But we can't handle the truth. Miliband said we need an honest debate about how to limit the damage going forward. An honest debate. You ready for an honest debate, Bodge? It's a no from him. It's a no from him, and it's a no from...
My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory.
Yeah, it's a no from him too. Tory MP Mark Jenkinson criticised Remain. I think it's pronounced Remoaners.
Stop whining.
Remoaners declaring lefties, lords and lovies were suffering from long Brexit as they still failed to accept the vote to leave the European Union. You know what? This whole country is suffering from long Brexit. We're poorer and our future is diminished because of this fantasy that these people are still peddling. If we all stop peddling, we might see that absolutely nothing they promised has come to pass. It was all lies and fantasies of recreating a past that exists only in war films and in Jeeves and Wooster books. None of it was true. What Brexit are they trying to save? Because the one we've got needs putting down. Or sending to a farm where it can run and scamper with all the pets that you had as a child. It's like they want to live in some matrix sleep state where we all take the blue pills. Or is it the red pill? I can never remember which one's which. But either way, I know Kung Fu. A senior Conservative minister warned the Prime Minister needed to get a grip or risk Brexit being lost through the party being defeated at the next election.
Oh, no.
Wouldn't that be sad? Brexit being lost, the thing that has given us lower growth and higher prices and more red tape and smaller businesses and harder travel and diminished prospects. We might lose that Brexit. Say it isn't so. Meanwhile, Liz the Brains Truss is hard at work ripping up a contract that this government negotiated and sold to the electorate as a great deal. You remember? It's a world-leading deal. Nobody ever saw a deal this good. They're going to unilaterally override parts of the deal agreed with Brussels, except that it's international law. You can't unilaterally override international law. It's not something you can just tear up any more than you can tear up your gym membership just because you don't want to go there anymore. Or you can tear up your employment contract just because you don't want to work there anymore. It's bigger than you, Liz Truss. Oh, what's the point? These people are away with the fairies, like old people used to say. As part of the Brexit negotiations, the UK and the EU agreed to the Northern Ireland Protocol, designed to avoid the need for a hard border on the island of Ireland. But this led to disruption of goods crossing the Irish Sea, new checks imposed on those goods moving to the province. Concerns have been raised that Northern Ireland's place within the UK is being undermined, and the Democratic Unionist Party have blocked the formation of power-sharing executive at Stormont until the issue is resolved. All of which we were told before it happened that it would happen. The government intends to use domestic law to reduce the checks required on goods, but they can't because we insisted that there be a border between us and the EU. That's what the vote was. I mean, the border's got to go somewhere because we insisted on there being one. And Bodge knew that all along. He's not stupid. It's worse than that. He knew it all along. He signed the deal knowing that it wouldn't work, as he had promised, and so he lied about it. No checks, he said. There will be no checks on goods going GB to NI. That's what he said. Over and over again he said it. Again and again and again. Liar! There will be no border down the Irish Sea, he said. And all of that, all lies. And he just thought he could bumble his way through it. And everyone would forgive him and love him and vote for him forever because they always have, eh, Bodge?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I mean, but they're not all demented headbangers, though. Tobias Ellwood, the Tory backbencher, last week called for Britain to rejoin the EU's single market, which would solve pretty much all of the problems in one go. But as that would solve all of the problems in one go, there's no chance of that happening under this administration because they don't want to get Brexit done. They want a permanent scab that they can pick and whine about, that the French are being mean to us. That's what they're going to run on in the next election, the next general election. That'll be their offering for the people. The EU is jealous, so they won't let us get Brexit done. That's going to be it. Going to be years of this. Oh, and the war on woke, of course, which is essentially a war on anyone showing a smidgen of kindness and consideration, which is not really their thing.
My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory.
0345 6060 973. Text 8. I don't know why Dominic Raab was speaking with his head in a bucket.
My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory.
But, it's a decision that he made. Well, maybe you saw this article in the Mail. I mean, it was on the Mail online today. I wonder if it was actually in the print version today or whether they're going to put it out tomorrow. I cannot believe it. It just went on and on and on about how we must protect the glorious Brexit and the man who brought it to us, the magnificent Boris Johnson.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah, otherwise we'll lose Brexit and we'll lose... I've got no idea. And neither does this bloke. I'll give you a taster of it. Daniel Johnson is his name, whose work I'm unfamiliar with, but I'm sure he is excellent in every regard. He wrote, "This week we have witnessed the emergence of the most dangerous threat to Britain's prosperity, democracy, independence since the defeat 3 years ago of that absurd crank Jeremy Corbyn." So, fighty start. That's quite alarming. The emergence of the most dangerous threat to Britain's prosperity, democracy and independence. Wow, that sounds really, really frightening. He says, on Monday night, no sooner had Boris Johnson narrowly survived the treacherous attempt to destroy his government with a vote of confidence than a coalition of counter-revolutionaries assembled to launch a multi-pronged assault. They have one key target, restaging the battle of Brexit that the rest of us thought had been decisively and painfully won 3 years ago. I mean, overdosing on the war references there, mate. Like this is a battle rather than an attempt by those who know better to keep us believing the lies that got us to where we are, which is a poorer, less influential, more insignificant little island obsessed with World War II because some of us can't think of a single thing we've won since. And we didn't even win that. We've just convinced ourselves that we did by gorging on the dambusters and 633 Squadron. He says the Prime Minister has been badly damaged by a Tory rebellion spearheaded not merely by backbenchers, but by some of his own ministers. No, the Prime Minister has been badly damaged by his own behaviour. He's a grown-up now. Is he ever going to take responsibility for his actions? He writes, smelling blood in the water, the Tory Remainer rear guard has joined forces, explicitly or otherwise, with opposition parties to overturn or at least water down Brexit, and with it everything that the Conservatives were elected to achieve. Water down Brexit. So what has concentrated Brexit brought us exactly? Can you think of anything? What is it that we're defending? And again, with the stupid war references. Joined forces. Blood in the water. What you like, Daniel Johnson? He says, in this they are supported by much of the unelected establishment. No! From swathes of the judiciary, the legal profession and the House of Lords to the infamous Whitehall blob that stymies ministerial plans, as well as the mainstream media that has never got over the shock of the 2016 referendum and obsessively peddles an anti-government, anti-Brexit narrative. Well, it's not a narrative. Anti-Brexit's not a narrative. It's just the restating of facts. I mean, there's so much there. The judiciary and the legal profession, for a start, exists to carry out the law, as written by Parliament, not to simply do what the dear leader thinks he'd like on any given day. And the Whitehall blob, that's the people that actually make the country work, whose job it is to alert ministers that they might be breaking the law. And as for the mainstream media, does he mean the Mail, for which he writes? Or the Telegraph, the two biggest newspapers in the land? Or the Sun? Or the Express, perhaps? Is he talking about the billionaire offshore foreign-owned press barons who dominate the news media in this country? Or is he talking about the BBC, which is run by an ex-Tory councillor and is overseen by one of the biggest donors to the Tory party? Is that the mainstream media he's talking about? Or is he just, like many of his ilk, just making up fantasy enemies in order to have somebody to express a fight against? The left-wing media. What left-wing media are these people talking about? You hear it so much. Whining victimhood. That every now and then there's a small pushback to the lies and the fake promises and the fantasies, which they can't stand because they know that a little light destroys their arguments. He says, just as Theresa May, a weak Prime Minister without a majority, was unable to pass her doomed Brexit deal, so now a weakened Boris Johnson is beset on all sides by the same anti-democratic forces. They literally had a vote, which is called democracy. And I think she was unable to pass her Brexit deal, he says, because of a certain Boris Johnson, who itched for power and saw his chance. He said, the legal system repeatedly delayed Brexit. Now that we have regained the right to control our borders, more people have come here in the last 6 months than in the 10 months to August of the previous year. Control our borders. Now that we have regained the right to control our borders, these same elements, bolstered by an immigration industry, comprising charities and human rights agitators. Charities? No! These people are striving to thwart Home Office plans to stem the tide of illegal migrants by sending them for processing to Rwanda. You know, the legal system only delayed what the government was illegally trying to do. It's literally their job. And as for human rights agitators, which human right first would you like to give up? And as for the tide of illegal immigrants, they're people, not a tide. We are not being swamped, and they wouldn't be arriving illegally if the government had not shut down all legal ways of arriving. He said, of course, Britain faces stark problems, inflation and the risk of recession foremost among them, yet these headwinds, which the PM freely concedes are holding back recovery and reform, would not die down if he were removed. He says, you'll love this bit. Prepare yourself. He said, on the contrary, all the dynamism in British politics is still coming from Boris Johnson. Do me a favour. What dynamism? Apart from a yearning desire to stay in number 10, what else has he given? I mean, at this point, what's the value in continuing? But, you know, just as a science experiment, I'll carry on. This week's speech on home ownership offered a hope for up to 4 million people unable to get on the housing ladder, he said. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. I mean, the funds, as small as they are going to run out almost as soon as the scheme starts. It's just about getting another headline. It's another distraction. And those it promised to help won't be able to come up with a deposit. So they still won't be able to afford a home. And anyway, like I said before, the Thatcher council house sell-off left almost half of those old council homes in the hands of private landlords. Big surprise, no? And the Help to Buy scheme that this government just used to funnel vast amounts of taxpayer money to developers who knew that they could throw up any old rubbish, safe in the knowledge that desperate people would buy them because the government was giving them our money. He said the PM also promised initiatives to cut back on red tape, much of it a legacy of the Brussels bureaucracy, and bring home the benefits of Brexit. Well, red tape has increased, not decreased, and it's increased massively. And there is no benefit to Brexit. Even the crown on pint glasses and the blue passports are things that we could have had when we were in the EU. And it is a mark of desperation that the government and their acolytes are waving those around as Brexit bonuses, because that's all they can come up with. He says none of this is likely to happen, however, if Boris is brought down in a fresh plot by Tory malcontents, perhaps after predicted by-election defeats in West Yorkshire and Devon later this month. He said that defeat in turn would usher in a coalition of chaos. Hey, we're back to that again. A coalition of chaos as opposed to this guy.
Peppa Pig World. Peppa Pig World it has Peppa Pig
is the right answer. Very good, Bodge. Yeah, what would we do without him? A coalition of chaos. They're back to that again. Boris's defeat would usher in a coalition of chaos, he says, and with it, mark my words, the betrayal of Brexit and its ultimate undoing. You know, what with all the benefits of... no, still can't think of any. He says with the drab Starmer, unlikely to secure a majority on its own, the Liberal Democrats, the Greens and the SNP, Remainer zealots all, would be called together or singly to join a ragtag coalition. The threat to the Union, let alone Brexit, is clear. You know what? Boris Johnson himself is the biggest threat to the Union. I mean, Scotland and Northern Ireland are pulling away from the rest of us because of what he is doing. He said, hence the survival of Boris Johnson in number 10 is about more than the career of one politician. It is about respecting the decision of the British people, a decision made narrowly but definitively in the 2016 referendum and reaffirmed with a thumping mandate in the 2019 general election, and it was all based on lies. All of it. Nothing they promised has come true. It's like being offered two boxes, box A and box B. Now, you don't know what's in box A, so let me tell you. In box A, there's cash money and lots of it. In box B, there's a dead dog. Which box would you like? Without opening them. You've just got to take my word on it. Box A with all the cash, or box B with the dead dog in it? You'd take box A, right? Well, turns out I lied to you about that. Box A is actually an IOU from you to me. You owe me money now. But you freely chose box A, so now you're stuck with it. And don't whine that I told you a lie about it, because it was a choice that you made freely. That is essentially what's happened to us about Brexit. We were sold a lie, and people voted on the basis of those lies. And now they're saying, well, you voted, so that's that. He says the counter-revolution has begun, from ex-prime ministers to the Whitehall blob, from courts to the television studios, from New York to Brussels. The forces ranged against the prime minister are legion. They would consign the country to pandemonium. Pandemonium. I looked it up in the dictionary. Pandemonium, defined as a wild and noisy disorder or confusion.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
It's a good working definition of the current prime minister. A wild and noisy disorder or confusion. That's him up and down. He says it's the fight of Boris's life, and he surely knows it. He must never see Brexit undone. It's one of the silliest articles I've ever read in a national newspaper. It would have to be done to be undone. And Brexit is not done, because the government can't agree what they signed and can't agree with their own deal, and they didn't do so even before the ink was dry. They negotiated a deal, they signed a deal, and the moment they did so, they said, well, this is a rubbish deal. Who negotiated and signed this? Brexit's not been done, nor will it ever be done. It's a mad fantasy dreamed up by those with bad intent as a way to pull the country away from the EU's tax avoidance clampdown and to set us alone and vulnerable as an island of decreasing power and significance off the coast of Europe. Is what I think, but obviously not what this bloke thinks, Daniel Johnson, who I'm sure is excellent in every regard apart from the pages that I've just read out. Maybe it was an accident